I want to welcome you to Valley Life Church. And as we continue and are nearing the end and the conclusion of our study in the book of Ecclesiastes, we are coming towards the end. And based on all the comments that I've heard over the last couple months through this journey that we have taken, a lot of people have enjoyed this study. And a lot of people really enjoy this particular book of the Old Testament. And that's not unique to just our church or people who have been a part of or heard this series. I actually heard a quote once from Bono, which some of you know who that is, and I'm sure some of you don't. Bono is the lead singer of U2. Again, some of you know who that is. Some of you may not. Bono once said that Ecclesiastes, he said, is one of my favorite books. It's a book about a character who wants to find out why he's alive, why he was created. He tries knowledge, he tries wealth, he tries experience, he tries everything. You hurry to the end of the book and to find out why, and it says, remember your creator. In a way, it's such a letdown, yet it isn't. And we're actually going to get to that part of the conclusion today. So I had heard that quote before. I went to look it up this week just because before I quoted him, I wanted to make sure that he actually said it. And just as I was affirming that he did actually say that, it reminded me of the U2 song, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. Again, some of you love the song. You could start singing it right now. I actually asked Joseph as the worship team was rehearsing today. I was like, hey, do you know that song? And he literally he just started playing it. Like he knew it like that. Some of you have never heard it. But the first verse of this song says this: I have climbed the highest mountains. I have run through the fields only to be with you. I have run, I have crawled, I have scaled these city walls only to be with you, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Those words from that song sound so much like the book of Ecclesiastes. Up to this point in our study and journey through the book, the preacher or the teacher, as he's called in the book, that we've identified with as the Israelite king Solomon, has in every way, financially, relationally, experientially, philosophically, religiously, done exactly what Bono describes in that song. He's climbed the highest mountains, he's run through the fields, he's run, he's crawled, and still has not found what he's looking for. As we begin the transition into the conclusion of the book this week, we make a noticeable shift. Throughout the book, as Solomon has seen life, as he's observed life, as he's experienced and lived life, at every twist and turn, no matter what he looks to, he calls it hevel, the Hebrew word for smoke or vapor. He says it's as if you're trying to grab onto smoke or vapor. No matter how hard you try, despite being able to see it right in front of you, every time you're left empty-handed. And so he has just gone through observing different aspects of life and realizing that they're hevel, or as your English Bible probably translate it, it's vanity or it's meaninglessness. But this week, as we shift towards the end, Solomon is not only going to be making observations, he's going to be giving us some encouragement, some things to actually do. He's going to say, hey, in light of what I have seen and lived and observed and experienced, here's what I think you should actually do. And so with that, we're going to turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 11. You can use your Bibles. If you brought one, you can use one underneath your seat or the one in front of you, or you can scan this QR code and you can follow along with us in the Bible app. All the scriptures we're going to talk about this morning and look at are already laid out there for you. Ecclesiastes chapter 11, starting in verse 1. Here's what Solomon, the teacher or the preacher, has to say to us. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 or even to 8, for you know not what disaster may happen on earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls to the north or the south, in the place where the tree falls, there it will be. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know what the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and at evening withhold not your hand, for you do not know which will prosper, this or that, whether both alike will be good. So Solomon has already explored the hevel, or the vanity of being consumed with work in the endless pursuit of wealth. He's looked at it, he's tried it, he's experienced it, he's been successful at it, yet he came to the end of that pursuit and called it hevel. It was vanity, it was meaninglessness. Then he, at some point, looked at the flip side, and as we've already seen through our study, he looked at just laziness, the lack of pursuing anything, which often leads to poverty, and he calls that hevel, or vanity, or meaninglessness. And here he's going to give us sort of a balanced approach. As he's reaching the conclusion of this book, he's starting to figure some things out that he feels like he can confidently teach us, the listeners or the readers. And here he's going to teach us that we should, as we would say in English, don't put all your eggs in one basket. He says, cast your bread upon the waters. What we actually know about Solomon and his life and his leadership is that he was known for building an enormous crew or system of vessels that shipped all over the Mediterranean to trade. Multiple times in Scripture, it talks about how many ships that Solomon had, and they would travel trading grain. And so he's telling us, hey, you should invest. Now, as we talk about investing for just a moment, a lot of us associate certain ideas and things with investing, and that I think Solomon very much intends us to think in those terms of taking resources that we have and investing them in opportunities. We might invest them in businesses or in stocks. We might invest them in certain mutual or index funds, whatever your preference is. But I think he very much intends us to think along those lines. But as we're going to see as he continues to talk, he's not only thinking about financial resource investment, but the investment of our time and our energy and our lives. So I think we can encompass all of that into what he's trying to teach us here. And he's going to teach us that you should diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You should invest the resources you have, but you should diversify because you don't know what disaster might come. One of your investments may not do well. From Solomon's perspective, you're putting grain on a ship and sending it off into the Mediterranean Sea. You don't know which of those ships will make it to their destination. And even those that do and make trades for goods, you don't know which of them will make it back unless a storm comes and destroys the ship or sinks it or they get lost. So diversify. And here's his motivation for why you should diversify. Look at what he says 4 different times in this passage. Verse 2, we see, for you know not. Verse 5, as you know not. Verse 5 later again, so you do not know. Verse 6, for you do not know. There are a lot of things that we don't know in life. You should diversify your investments because you do not know what disaster may strike. You don't know which of your investments, the things that you invest your resources in, your time in, your energy in, your life into, you don't know which of those will work out and which won't. You don't know what the future holds. Verse 3, he says, if the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth, and if a tree falls to the south or to the north, in the place where it falls, there it will lie. Listen, there are some things we do know. If the clouds are dark, we know it's going to rain. Now, we don't know exactly where, and we don't know exactly when, but we know it's going to rain. Hey, if a tree falls, we don't know which direction it's going to fall, but we do know whatever direction it falls, that's where it's going to stay. There are some things that we can know, but there are a lot of things in life that we can't know. And then verse 4, he who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. Those who base all of their decisions just strictly on what they see right in front of them, or what they think they know is going to happen in the future, will probably never do anything. They're going to be stuck just waiting for the perfect opportunity. But most of us who've lived life long enough know that often those perfect scenarios, those perfect opportunities never really come. Those of you who have kids can appreciate this, right? Is there ever a convenient time financially to have kids? Like, no, right? Like, you never have enough money. Like, you can't base your decision on starting a family on when you have enough money. Like, is there ever a convenient time in your career to have kids? No. Is there ever like this moment where you're like sitting around with your spouse and you're like, we literally have nothing to do with our lives. Might as well have a kid because we have nothing else to do. Like, that conversation never happens. You will make the time, you will adjust your career, you will figure it out financially, but it's never like truly convenient, right? If you sit around waiting for everything to be perfect, you'll probably never take action, is what he's speaking to in verse 4. Verse 5, there's some things we can understand about how a child physically develops in utero, even if there's a little mystery to it from a literal, medical, scientific, biological aspect. We can understand what happens. But what we can't really understand is how the immaterial part comes together, how the child's personality comes together. And yes, part of that is developed by the environment the child's raised in. But again, if you have more than one kid, you know that there's a uniqueness to each one that was there from the beginning. And so there's some mystery to, there's things that we really can't fully know. And in the same way, God is at work in our lives and in this world. And there are some things that he's doing that we just can't fully know. So his conclusion, if we don't know the future, if we don't know what disaster may happen, if we don't know exactly how God is at work behind the scenes, then his conclusion, well, we don't know what's going to prosper. So not only do we not know what's going to fail, we don't exactly know what's going to prosper. So his conclusion, then you should sow your seed in the morning and in the evening, don't withhold your seed. It's just another way of saying you should invest your resources in the morning and the evening because you don't know. As we've been on this journey, one of the things that Solomon has wrestled with in his teaching is trying to figure out, is there meaning to life? Is this just a mundane existence? And here I think he's coming to the ultimate conclusion that no, it's not mundane. Life is an adventure. And I think the encouragement Solomon would have for us today is if life is an adventure, then you should live it. You should take some risks. So many of us operate out of a fear of failure. What if things don't work out? And Solomon's conclusion is, yeah, some of them won't. But you don't know. You don't know what disaster may strike. You also don't know what might prosper. Here, verse 6, you also don't even know if all of your endeavors will prosper. If turns out both of them will be good. And so as he has looked around and observed all of the vanity, all of the meaningless, all of the hevel of life that we try to grasp onto, as he starts to come to some some conclusions. One of them is, listen, life is a mysterious adventure, so you should live it. You should be willing to take some risks. The goal is not to just play it safe all the time. So I'm just curious where you sit now, whether you're young or you're old. Solomon's about to have some things to say to both groups. What does it mean for you to take some risks in life? To actually invest in something. Now I'm talking a little less on the financial side, though I do think you should invest for, retirement and things. Those are wise things to do. What does it mean for you to take a risk? What does it mean for you to live life? What does it mean for you to actually do something that you could fail at? Whether you're young or you're old, what would Solomon encourage you to do after he has lived everything, seen everything, experienced everything? When he tells you to take some risks, what would that look like for you? Let's continue. Verse 7. Light is sweet, he says, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all. But let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity, or hevel, he would say. Verse 9, rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes, but know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Remove vexation from your heart and put away pain from your body, for your youth and the dawn of life are hevel, or vanity. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. This idea of light is sweet is his way of saying it's good to be alive, as opposed to in contrast to the darkness that he'll start to talk about. And he's going to go more into that in a little bit in chapter 12, which represents, as the darkness is coming, that's your life fading away. That's death approaching. And he's like, it's good to be alive, which is in contrast and a different perspective of some of the things that Solomon has said already in this book. When he talked about hating his own life, as he was looking to find meaning under the sun, and he said, I hate my own life. At one point, he says the most fortunate people are those who are already dead, as opposed to those who are alive. And then in this hyperbolic, sarcastic tone, he's like, actually, the best people are those who haven't been born yet, because life is so difficult. Life is so painful. There's so much meaningless everywhere I turn. But as he's coming to the conclusion of his thoughts, as he's been processing some things out loud, and now he's coming to some resolution, he's like, life is sweet. It's actually pretty awesome. It's pretty good to be alive. And so in verses 1 through 6, he told us to take some risks. Go ahead. Cast your bread upon the water. Take your grain and send it off. Not just in 7 or 8 different venues, different avenues for investment. Take some risk, because you don't know what will happen. Good or bad, you don't know what disasters are coming, and you don't know what God's going to bless. So take some risks, live some life, do something. And then look what he says, 3 things in this passage for us to do: to rejoice, to remove, and to remember. Rejoice, remove, and remember. Verse 9, rejoice in your ability and opportunity. Let your youthful abilities and passions guide you. But he's going to put a little restraint on it. While you're young, chase after your dreams. While you have the ability and the freedom to do it, go. Rejoice in the life that God has given you. But he's going to say, At the end of verse 9, remember or know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. So he's not giving a total license for do whatever you want. No rules apply. There's no consequences. No, there are. There are consequences. But as we're going to see as he continues this argument, but don't let the fear of failure or the future hold you back. Take advantage of your abilities and opportunities. Let your dreams and your passions guide you, but keep in mind that God will judge us for what we do. So this is not total license. Verse 10, he says, remove. Remove. Remove vexation from your heart and put away pain from your body. This word vexation literally means worry or discontentment. So he's encouraging us not to let emotional or physical limitations hold us back. And then notice what he says here at the end of verse 10. After remove vexation from your heart, don't allow worry or discontentment with what you have in life right now, and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. Now, I'm not sure that that's the best way to phrase it in English. Again, remember the word hevel, we often translate vanity or meaningless or meaninglessness in our English text, because that is kind of the connotation it brings. But what the word literally means is vapor or smoke, that Hebrew word hevel. And so he says, actually, for youth and the dawn of life are vapor, are smoke, which sound a lot like Jesus' half-brother James, who became a leader in the early church, the man who we actually went through his book 2 years ago, his letter, a man who did not believe his brother was the Son of God and Savior of the world until after the resurrection. And when he was writing a letter to a group of Christians, he says this in James 4:14, "Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring." Sounds like what Solomon was teaching. What is your life? For you are a mist. You are a smoke. You are a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes. So in verse 10 of Ecclesiastes 11, I don't think Solomon is saying youthfulness, the early part of life, are meaningless. I think what he's saying is they're vapor, they're smoke. It's here one moment and it's gone the next. So don't let worry keep you from chasing after your dreams. Don't let emotional and physical limitations hold you back from taking risks. Remove those, because your youth, whether that may mean actually how many birthdays you've had or just the youth of this moment. At the early season of the opportunity, don't let it pass you by, because it is like a vapor, a smoke, a mist. It's here one moment and it's gone the next. And then he says, remember your Creator. Biblically, to remember something is not just a mental exercise in recalling something. To remember is to not only acknowledge it, but then to act on it. When we're called to remember what God has done in the past, it's not just a mental exercise. It should change what we do and how we live. When God remembers his promise to us, it influences how he acts towards us despite our faithlessness and sin. When the book of Jeremiah and the book of Hebrews talks about God remembering no more our sins, it's not that he literally forgets that we ever sinned, but that he will not act on it. That in Christ we are forgiven, and in that sense of not acting on it, he will not remember them. So when he says remember your Creator, it's not just a mental exercise to remind yourself that you have a Creator, but to live like it. Let's continue in verse 1. We'll go from verse 1 to 8 of chapter 12. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. And then he's going to start talking about the transition towards the end of life. He's going to use a bunch of allegorical and symbolic language to represent the fading of life. So remember your Creator in the days of your youth before, he's going to say it 3 times, before the evil days come and the years draw near of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened and the clouds return after the rain. Remember, he had already made that comparison, life to light and darkness to death. And so as the light begins to fade, as you grow older and approach death, in the day when the keepers of the house tremble and the strong men are bent and the grinders cease because they are few and those who look through the windows are dimmed and the doors on the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low and the one rises up at the sound of a bird and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high and tares are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails because man is going to his eternal home and the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. We could go through and break down every analogy he makes, but I think you get the point. That all of these references are pictures for different functions of the body fading away. And Solomon isn't making an absolute statement here that youth have no problems and old people have no joys. But here's what he is saying. Life is a gift. So enjoy it. Isn't this such a contrast to like the previous 10 weeks of this book? Life is a gift. Enjoy it. The days of your youth and the days of an opportunity are short. Don't let them pass you by because you're stuck, worried about failure, worried about the unknown. Don't let those things hold you back. Life is short, life is precious, and it is a gift. Enjoy it. And then he concludes here in verse 8, the same way he started. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. Those are the very words he started with in chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem, he began his teaching. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Solomon is making a shift here at the end of his book. Though he has looked around at so many different aspects of life and seen the vanity or the meaninglessness in so much of it. He's tried to grasp on to meaning in so many pursuits and was left empty-handed at every twist and turn. As he comes to a conclusion in his writing, in his teaching, he recognizes there are some things we can do. Life is an adventure. So live it. Take some risks. Quit waiting for everything to be perfect. It won't. Some things are not going to work out, but you don't know what God is doing behind the scenes and which ones will. Whether you're just getting started in life or whether you're coming into the final chapters of your life, live it. Life is an adventure. He says life is also a gift, so enjoy it. Don't let worry and fear hold you back from enjoying and living the life that God has given to you. Underneath it all, we recognize we don't always know what God is doing. We recognize that we don't have total license to live and enjoy life just however we want, because judgment will come. God still has standards that He wants us to uphold. But don't let life fade by without actually living it. But even in this, Solomon is still wrestling. He's still wrestling with trying to make sense of all of life, even in the midst of some of these conclusions that he's coming to. Honestly, a lot like that song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. As I was, again, researching Bono, making sure he really did have that, give that quote about Ecclesiastes being one of his favorite books, I came across another interview with the lead guitarist of U2, The Edge, talking about this song. I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And in this interview, he said that it was a gospel song. He said, it doesn't sound like a gospel song, but that's how we wrote it. Here's some of the closing lyrics from this song. I believe in the kingdom come, when all the colors will bleed into one. But yes, I'm still running. You broke the bonds and you loosed the chains, carried the cross of my shame. You know I believe it, but I still haven't found what I'm looking for. This journey that is described in this song is much like what Solomon is going through. He's starting to come to some resolution and conclusion, but the searching and the pain haven't quite ended. It's like he knows what he's supposed to believe, but life is still difficult and painful. I think that's why so many people resonate with this book, because it presents life as it really is. That just because we have the right answers sometimes doesn't make it easy. It's still a struggle. It's still something we wrestle with. There's a longing inside of us. And even though we know nothing in this world will satisfy it, it often doesn't stop us from chasing it. C.S. Lewis, in his book, Mere Christianity, made what I think is a pretty compelling argument for the existence of God, based on our deep desires and the constant dissatisfaction that we find in life. And I think it sounds a lot like U2's song and the book of Ecclesiastes. Here, Lewis makes the argument, a baby feels hunger, and there is such a thing as food. He says a duckling wants to swim. Well, there is such a thing as water. Men feel sexual desire. Well, there is such a thing as sex. If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. It's the realization of what Solomon is coming to. The fact that there's nothing in this world that could satisfy the meaning he was looking to, in Lewis's words, means that we were made for something else. If this world can't satisfy a desire in us, that desire comes from another place. There was an ancient Christian leader, Augustine of Hippo from North Africa, pretty prolific theologian and writer in the 4th century A.D. Augustine lived a pretty wild life, not too dissimilar from some of the life that Solomon lived. And he went on an existential journey in his early 20s, searching for meaning. And he pursued all kinds of philosophical answers. He tried different religions. He was highly intelligent. He was actually got a scholarship, essentially what we would call it today, to go to Carthage for education when in his young 20s, and he chased after pleasure. Ultimately, he found satisfaction in Jesus after a long search. And after finding satisfaction in Jesus, became one of the most prolific early Christian authors, theologians, and church leaders. He wrote this in a book called Confessions in the late 4th century. This prayer, he said, "You have, speaking to God, made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Solomon wants you to take some risks in life, live life, enjoy life, but recognize that there is something not under the sun. There is something outside of this world that will only satisfy that longing that keeps us running, that keeps us crawling, that keeps us climbing, that keeps us searching. Solomon had come to that conclusion. I still have not found what I'm looking for, but he was just starting to get a taste. Because there's something that isn't of this world that will ultimately satisfy. Let's pray. Lord, so many of us, maybe in the past, or maybe right now, have chased after meaning and satisfaction in everything that we can think of. In indulgences and experiences, in significance, in work, in wealth. We've looked for it religiously, we've looked for it philosophically, and at every twist and turn, we feel empty. Feel like we still haven't found what it is that we're looking for. And Lord, even though that we know the right answer is you, that you are what we are looking for, so often we get distracted chasing things that, even though we know they don't satisfy, they lure us in. So Lord, right now, Lord, would you meet us where we are? Would you show us the vanity, the meaninglessness, the futility of chasing after all these things? Right now, would you help us to see and to savor, to realize that our true satisfaction is right before us this morning? That you are right before us. If you'll keep your eyes closed for a moment. I don't know what place you find yourself in life. There may be some things that Solomon had to say that resonate a lot with you. Some that may seem a little foreign. Some of you may be sitting here just realizing you're just letting life pass you by. You're not living it. You're not enjoying it. And maybe what the Lord is trying to speak to you this morning is that your life is a gift. It's a gift. And maybe for you this morning is an encouragement to live it. But not for yourself, for something bigger than you. Not for something of this world, but to live it, to risk it, to enjoy it for the world that is to come. Maybe you're sitting here and you're young. Maybe you're sitting here today and you think of yourself as old. Maybe you have lived every experience that Solomon has described, or maybe you haven't experienced hardly any of them yet. But the truth that you can hold on to this morning is that you were made for something more, and there is nothing in this world that will satisfy that longing outside of the one who made you. Remember your Creator. It is He and He alone who can satisfy you. As we enter in our time of response this morning, if you want to stand and sing with us, you're invited to do that. If you want to stay and where you are and sit and think and pray and reflect, we encourage you to do that. For those of you who recognize that Jesus died for you, He died to give you a new kind of life. A life that can be lived and enjoyed to the fullest. We invite you to the table. There's 2 in the front and 1 in the back, to take of the bread and the cup that Jesus taught us symbolize His death, His shed blood for us, so that in Him we can live. If that's true of you today, that's something that you've embraced and believed and confessed, and we invite you to make that a part of your worship response today. Lord, would you speak? Would you convict? Would you challenge? Would you encourage our hearts right now? That we would live a life that honors the life you gave for us. We're here to meet with you and to worship you, to hear from you this morning, Lord. Would you speak? Would you move?